Hello and welcome to Teleislas News with the most important information of the day.
The Travel Agencies Association, ANATO, confirmed the postponement of the ANATO Tourism Showcase, both in person and virtual, due to the arrival of the third peak of the pandemic in Bogota.
This version of the ANATO Touristic Showcase was scheduled to be held from April 28 to the 30 in the city of Bogota. However, due to the current situation of the increase of COVID cases, the decision was made to postpone it. The Secretary of Tourism and the department speak on this subject.
Bueno, el día de ayer.
Yesterday, the president of ANATO, Mrs. Paola Cortez, held a meeting with all the territorial entities in which she explained what was the context of the city of Bogota, the city where ANATO is being held, and how the showcase was going to be in person, then taking into account the variables presented by the Mayor's office in relation to the pandemic and the occupation of the ICU. The possibility of postponing ANATO was raised given the conditions in which the showcase is going to be held.
According to data from the entity, Showcase 2021 is already occupied by national and international exhibitors, and more than 5,000 professional visitors have registered to date, meeting the required capacity.
Consideramos que lo más importante en este momento es
We consider that it is very important to safeguard the lives of all those who will be at the showcase and those who will visit the stand. So in the coming days, we will publish the new date of the ANATO Tourism Showcase.
Teleislas News will be attentive to the development of this news and the new date that is pending to be announced.
Is suspending the alternating or blended model in educational institutions an option? Well, after the rapid increase of COVID infections in the islands, ASISAP by letter requested to suspend the alternating model.
For the Association of Educators of St. Andrews and Old Providence, the continuity of the alternating model despite the current circumstances of the pandemic, the autonomy of the certified territorial and institutional entity is violated, as they are serious in many municipalities and departments of the country, and St. Andrews is no exception. Following this line, the document reads:
The alternating thus becomes an imposition and not a decision of the school governments of the educational institutions according to their reality. In the face of the continuity of the educational institutions in alternation, it makes them responsible for the consequences and demonstrates the mood of the national government, insensitive and violator of human rights. This is a government that privileges the market through the so-called reopening of the economy over the lives of citizens and in particular of the educational community.
ASISAP requests the departmental government to suspend the model of alternating in school for at least 21 days until biosecurity conditions and protocols are being applied or reevaluated, given the situation of COVID-19 presented inside one of the educational institutions of St. Andrews and the increase of cases in the insular department of St. Andrews decreases.
And in order to raise their voices against the proposed tax reform of the national government, the country's labor unions have called for a national strike.
On April 28, the labor unions and syndicates of the country are calling for a national strike against the tax reform announced by the government. The Archipelago's United Union of Workers announced that it will join this call, but that they are analyzing the COVID situation on the island to define if they will march on the street or if they will transfer the protest to social networks.
We also, as a union and member of the Central Union, we will have active participation in the national strike on April 28th. Even tomorrow, there is a national mobilization of which we will participate virtually, taking into account that the pandemic situation is rising nationally, and even here in the department, we have to be very careful. We are preparing ourselves to see what happens between now and the 28th of April, because if the pandemic persists, we will make a mobilization considering the protocols. Then we will do it. But if the situation worsens, we will do it through a Twitter-thon or virtual media.
The national strike called by the Central Labor Unions will be joined by syndicates, FECODE, students, farmers, workers, and indigenous movements. This mobilization is announced to last 24 hours, and it is to be held at the most important places in each city of the country.
And through a report, the Communications Regulation Commission said that the archipelago does not have sufficient access to the internet network, and the cost is higher compared to other regions of the country.
According to the 154-page report published by the CRC entitled Analysis of the Internet Access Service, the submarine cable is essential for the provision of the service that connects from Toledo to the Archipelago Department. They also added within their conclusion that the municipal fixed internet market of San Andres was classified in the study review of the fixed data market of June 2017 as part of the cluster called NACET's markets. However, when compared to municipalities with similar socioeconomic characteristics within the same cluster, it is found that San Andres has a service percentage far below other municipalities in the same cluster. This is what some residents and tourists think of the internet service on the island.
The truth is that it has been scarce. Every time I try to connect, it doesn't work. So I always have to use the mobile network because the Wi-Fi is not working very well. It's too bad. We ask the departmental government to collaborate with us to have a good service, since the children also have virtual classes because of the pandemic and they need it to benefit from it. Therefore, they should put more repeaters or antennas so that there can be better service, because in the interior of the country, there is better service than here. In the interior, there is 4G, and here there isn't, which there should be, because this is Colombia also.
Because the truth is that the signal is very poor. I have been connected, then it drops, it disconnects. So it will be good to have better coverage and that all tourists and locals can enjoy a good internet service.
It is worth mentioning that according to the CRC report, it was evidence that in San Andres, you pay 73% more per megabytes per second than in other municipalities of the same cluster. In addition, San Andres is by far the municipality with the most expensive average download in the country. The average rate per megabyte per second on the island is 130,500. It is the 680% more expensive than the median of the municipality with the next most expensive megabytes per second in the country.
And in news from our sister islands of Old Providence and Catalina, after almost 3 years of not feeling earthquakes in the municipality, this morning a strong shaking woke up the people of Old Providence.
A 4.2 earthquake occurred this morning at 5:46 a.m. near the island of Old Providence. The earthquake's epicenter was at 26 kilometers from the island with a depth of 10 kilometers, and it was felt more strongly in the southeastern section of the municipality. The community shared on what they experienced.
I feel just like something take the bed and fling it and haul it with me and shake terrible. I recognize that was a shaking. Well, really, I never get nervous. Probably, yeah, we don't custom to these things, but well, really, I never hear the heavy noise where some people hear, but I feel the bed shake terribly with me and move up.
The first shaking was really loud, and I heard some noise. Then I saw the shadow of the trees move a lot.
I was seated on my bed, and when I see my window, especially the window, that shake about, I don't know, maybe 1 minute or 30 seconds, something like that, but I never expect say it was shaking.
We feel a hard earthquake. Well, before we used to feel some, but this one come really strong. Thank God it was just like frightened and he done a couple things and so. And well, nobody get injured.
Teleislas News spoke with Marta Lucia Calvache, director of Geo Amenazas, who says that earthquakes are caused by the release of accumulated energy.
The earthquake was of magnitude 4.2, and we at the Geological Service located it with the stations that we have mainly in the continent. Unfortunately, the stations that are in Old Providence and the ones on the Keys were affected by the hurricane.
Some of the recommendations were not to put heavy things in high places, be careful with ravines or slopes that can slide in case of heavy rains, and to be careful with buildings under construction.
If the reconstructed house is not firm, we must be careful with those parts that are more loose. We must be very careful because they can fall with earthquakes, even if they're small.
She ended the interview by making reference to the importance in constructions of earthquake-resistant houses.
The worrying increase in COVID cases in Providence led the municipal authorities to retake some measures with the purpose of curbing the contagion in this municipality.
The municipal mayor's office is demanding the use of masks to the citizens of Old Providence for the entrance to places such as supermarkets again. This after the worrying increase of active COVID cases in the municipality. The measure that has already been decreed at the beginning of the pandemic in the Decree 049 of 2020 took priority once again since yesterday. This morning, the mayor's office issued a communique informing about the COVID situation in Old Providence, stressing the importance of personal care against the virus, hand washing, correct use of masks, and social distancing. They also urge the adoption of the principles of the PRAS strategy and volunteer isolation. The communique also says that at this moment, the risk for contagion is high.
At this moment, the municipality is going through its second epidemiological peak of COVID-19. The risk of contagion is high and the number of contagions shows a tendency to increase.
Reliable sources confirm that there are more than 18 positive cases in the municipality. At the moment, there is no further information from the health authorities.
And today, in our Community Chronicles section, the theme revolves around the victims of domestic animals or livestock like dogs and canines and felines, which is a troubling problem that has been present for years in the department and a solution has not been found.
This situation has led fatal accidents over time and still continues to be evident. To whom should victims of a livestock accident go? To which agency? Today we will hear the story of Manfred Diaz and the cry of a desperate mother.
Manfred Alfred Diaz Marquez is a 70-year-old man from the island who approximately 15 years ago suffered a serious accident due to the transit of livestock on the island, an event that marked his life and the life of his family. Manfred, a hard-working man known for his work as a teacher in institutions such as the Bolivariano School and Miss Chichi School at that time, tells how at his 55 years of age his life changed after an accident that left him in a coma for 4 months.
I was on a motorcycle and a cow crossed my path, and as a result of that cow, I had an accident and I was in a coma for 4 months.
This accident caused serious injuries to the body of Diaz Marquez, so much so that 15 years later he's still in pain. But the most serious thing for him is that he has little chance for getting a job after this recovery.
I broke my tibia and fibula in 4 parts. They also had to operate my head. I remember very well, and my family tells me that I was in a coma for 4 months, and Dr. Arocha operated me and put 23 lathes and 3 loose screws in my tibia and fibula. I was left playing like a kid in a stroller, like a kid.
The blows to the head left him with a temporary mental confusion for which he was fortunately able to recover. Manfred Alfred Diaz Marquez, with tears in his eyes, thanks his family members, especially his brothers Omar and Edwin Diaz, who supported him during the process. According to him, his faith has been the key to his survival. And also, like Manfred, many people have been victims of stray animals. Samantha Williams is a woman who recently suffered an accident in the Barrack area after a dog accidentally crossed the street. The animal died in that accident, and the woman has not yet recovered from the coma. And she prays that her beloved daughter will be able to be with her family, especially with her 3 children.
I worry because you know got no way for herself right now. And get easy all the time get in an accident. First one got 3 years and get in an accident. I got 1 hand. And then now with this again, I don't know if it can work.
This is a situation that definitely deserves the attention of the community and the governmental entities to stop these situations.